And it was a big puzzle because we know that stars make helium out of hydrogen. That's what the sun's doing.
Yeah.
But they can't make enough. And so the reason that all this helium is around is because it got made in the first couple of minutes in the life of the universe.
Right.
And we can predict exactly how much should have been made. And we can measure it, and it's the right answer.
That's
So
amazing.
you have direct predictions, and also the amount of some lithium as well in the early universe. There's a tiny amount which you can predict from the Big Bang theory, and then you can go and look at the starlight from distant stars, and you can measure it, and you find out that it agrees.
Okay,
It's
amazing.
amazing.
Let me
It's
ask Ricky's
amazing.
big question here, which is still confusing me when you talk about this, which is that stuff's made in the first few minutes after the Big Bang.
Yeah, because it was a big nuclear reactor then.
Yeah, but that's the question. Is that I can't remember what you called it, but that field that collapsed in on itself. What did you call it?
Oh, the inflaton field.
The inflaton
yeah.
field, right?
Yeah.
How does that create in the reaction of the Big Bang?
So that's before the Big Bang.
Yeah,
so you
but
get this thing.
that's all there is, and
What
then the Big
happens?
Bang creates lithium and helium in the first minute or so.
Yeah.
How?
So what happened was that in this idea called inflation, so the universe is expanding very quickly. This thing sort of draws to a close, and these particles called inflaton particles essentially condense out into space. So it's like almost like ice forming on your window, from water vapor. And then those things then decay. They're very massive, heavy particles, and they decay down into the particles, the quarks and electrons and all that stuff out of which we are made. So that's the theory.
And
so
in very simple
and then
terms,
decay.
all the different elements are just percentages, numbers of atoms that are clumped together that make them heavier and denser and all that. So
hydrogen's 1 proton, helium's 2 protons, and 2 neutrons.
I know
and
that.
so some of the fission
fusion stick together.
took collapsing stars to make half the elements, didn't they? And the ones
heavy
used for
ones.
life.
But the lightest ones, helium in particular, got made at the Big Bang, after the Big Bang.
So, for example, carbon wouldn't have been
That's in stars.
made
but
until the
helium
first
doesn't get
collapsing.
made in the Big Bang.
That's Krauss's point that atoms that make life came from different stars. So the atoms in your left hand came from a different star than the atoms in your right hand.
Yeah.
And he says, forget Jesus, a star died for you to live.
Yeah, lots of them.
But
And then the
helium,
hydrogen comes from the
helium
first
can
few
exist at
minutes,
great
you know.
temperatures. Is that right then? Because if helium's there a minute afterwards, presumably the universe
was
is
getting-
incredibly hot.
Well, it was
at
getting
that
a bit
point.
chillier. And
Well,
that's why
even a minute
it all
But it's just
stopped.
an atom, isn't it?
It
That's
had
the
stopped
point.
by about 10 minutes. The whole thing had stopped. So no new elements were made after the first 10 minutes or so until the first stars appeared. And we're watching that now, by the way. We've got a big new telescope, which the headquarters at Jodrell Bank in Manchester, but it's being built in Australia, called a Square Kilometre Array. And that's going to look so far back, so far out into space, that it will be able to see the first stars forming.
Right, I've got to
Which
play a
is gonna be-
record because David's face looks like your granddad listening to someone talk a foreign language.
Well, it always looks like that. That's my face.
What's
We'll
the
come back
record?
with
What's
a
the
fine-
theme song? What's the soundtrack to David's face?
Hi by Feeder. Okay, right. We've solved everything. We know where the universe came from. We know why we're here. We've done that. Right. The next step.
It'd be a pity if you missed it. If you just tuned in now.
Yeah,
Some people
tuned
might.
in early.
I was just parking the car. They what? They solved the... Oh,
Yeah, but let's be
no.
honest, it's a podcast.
Yeah.
So I think as long as people know that the answer to the universe is in it, they can go back and listen to it again.
Go back and listen to it
It's
again.
not like live telly where you think, oh no, now I missed the reason for life and now I'll never see it again because there's no way of recapturing it.
So, before global warming and all that, even if we live through that and another ice age and we kill ourselves and we changed our species somewhat or we become extinct, even if we get through all that, the sun is going to explode, and on the way there it's going to get much too hot. We're going to get... How many years have we got before the Earth's destroyed?
It's actually, I think it gets too
Billion?
hot in about, a billion or so, a couple of billion. The sun eventually dies about 5
Well,
billion.
first of all, we won't be a species by then. We won't be Homo sapiens by any stretch of the imagination in a billion years. So let's stop worrying about us being extinct.
Because of evolution, do you think?
Well, of course. Well,
Yeah,
our
although we've-
species not going to. No species
We've only
lasts
been
a
around-
billion
we've slightly
years.
stopped
We've only been around
evolution,
for-
haven't we?
No.
Well, no,
We
we
haven't.
haven't.
Evolution
No,
Slightly stopped it a bit, hasn't it?
Well, no, we've
that
there's
right?
there's a bit of
No.
selective breeding, but we haven't stopped it.
Well, we haven't stopped it completely.